Well, our reporter Heidi Giokos is at the airport. She's covering where negotiations are going. And of course, good afternoon, Heidi. You're also trying to get more information about these very worrying claims from NUMSA and the Cabin Crew Association that the flights are not as safe as they should be. Tell us more.
Exactly, Sally. So yesterday we heard the Cabin Crew Association as well as NUMSA making remarks such as the fact that there are junior and unqualified technicians and engineers operating SAA aircraft, basically saying that SAA passengers are not safe because the qualified and experienced engineers are striking. But I think this has caused a lot of panic for many passengers flying with SAA. But joining me now to discuss this and bring further clarity on this matter is Captain Mpoma Mashele. Thank you so much, Captain, for your time. I think let's get straight into it. This has caused much panic. We have the Civil Aviation Authority saying they are going to do inspection and verification on these aircraft and the personnel handling this because of the remarks made by NUMSA and the Cabin Crew Association. You are the captain. Can you tell us, are these aircraft safe and are they qualified and experienced technicians and engineers looking at these aircraft?
Okay, thanks very much for the opportunity to respond to this, and hello to your listeners. Let's first start off with what actually happens in looking after an aircraft. An aircraft is acquired from the manufacturer, and the manufacturer will indicate to you the required maintenance that should take place, whether it is service intervals and exactly what needs to be done. Any aircraft part that gets replaced on an aircraft has serial numbers. And those serial numbers need to be verified by the manufacturer to ensure that these are genuine. So we cannot just go to Midas or any of those people that create, parts that can fit. It has to be a genuine part from the manufacturer or the OEM that is fitted onto an aircraft. Let's come to technicians. Nobody was born in a workshop. Every single technician started off somewhere, and they have gotten to become what they call experienced technicians because another more senior experienced technician guided them. So the very people that are standing outside there today and throwing that allegation, they need to tell us, how did they become experienced technicians? Because they were not born in a hangar. There are controls and measures of introducing technicians. There is no institution that does not have new people entering it. But there are definitely very tight controls which protect the integrity of the process and ensure that it is safe. So in our case, yes, there's nothing wrong with having a new engineer. But whatever work he does or she does, that work is overseen by a more senior and experienced technician who then is the one who puts his stamp on the work that has been carried out. So every flight, with every departure, as pilots, we receive the aircraft's technical manual. We will see what situations have occurred in terms of faults or whatever, and you will see that it has to be signed off and stamped by a qualified technician that the proper work has been carried out. And these records are verified and overseen by our regulating authority. So I tend to laugh at it because if ever SAA was saying they're coming to do this purely because somebody on the outside has said so, then it means they themselves are doubting the integrity of their own controls. Remember, our South African Civil Aviation Authority is also a signatory to the international standards. And they too undergo audits to make sure that the standards of South African maintenance meets international standards. And that is how South African registered aircraft are accepted all over the world. It is because the international community has looked at how we conduct our maintenance, how our authority regulates, oversees, and monitors those maintenance procedures. And if they are up to scratch, then that aircraft is allowed to go. And the final check is with the pilot, who receives an aircraft manual and says, this was what was wrong. It was being signed off by this particular technician, and you have a stamp that identifies a technician. And that stamp is only issued by our authority. So it's not something that anybody just picks up. So I think what one needs to also ask is to say, the very person who's saying this thing, why is it suddenly a problem when they are standing outside the gate? And when did they start becoming aware of that? And why is it they never said anything? Or what did they do about it when they were still inside? Had they been given an 8% increase or the 10% increase, would it have been okay? So I think what is very important, ma'am, is that yes, we have challenges. People are addressing their issues, and one needs to respect that. But I think what is very important is that we need not to discredit the integrity of what we have as South Africans. Our airline operates as an international standards. We fly all over the world and have to comply with international standards of wherever we go. Wherever we land, inspectors come on board and inspect our documents, inspect our licenses, and check that we comply with standards. And so therefore, if anybody is doubting the integrity of our Civil Aviation Authority, please, what about the integrity of those authorities where we go to? Are we suddenly going to doubt them because we have a disgruntled employee? So please, let's be focused. But I do want to assure our customers that our aircrafts are signed off by qualified technicians who are being highly sought after internationally and very much qualified.
Great. Sorry, I wish we had more time. I mean, this is such an important issue given the fact that the question of safety is being brought in here, given by the claims made by NUMSA and the Cabin Crew Association. But there you have the captain and the chief pilots basically explaining that everything is safe and checks and balances have been done to make sure all is in order. Sally?
Thank you very much. It certainly was very reassuring, Heidi, to hear from Captain Mpho Mamashele there saying we wouldn't be signing off on any of these flights. And also, interestingly, the statement that's just come out from the Civil Aviation Authority, they're saying that they would like to implore NUMSA to come forward with credible information that supports their statements. Heidi, from what you've heard from the captain and from what you're hearing from the unions, do you think that there's a clear reassurance that those flights are safe?
Well, Sally, I mean, just hearing from the captain himself and just him standing here next to me, I think there is some kind of reassurance that all is in order. Also, given the fact that SAA came out a few minutes ago basically saying that some of the regional flights will be back in the air. And if time permits, I think I should quickly ask the captain. Those flights that are back in the air, the regional flights that are back in the air, yes. There's also an allegation that those are junior pilots and junior personnel that will be flying that back in the air. Can you just reassure us quickly, who is flying that? Are you part of that crew? And is everything safe? Because, I mean, it's a serious allegation, and safety, passenger safety is number one when it comes to aircraft.
Okay. South African Airways has got some of the most highest experienced co-pilots in the world. And that's because the lack of growth has meant that promotions are stunted. So you find in our airline, we have co-pilots who've been co-pilots for over 15 years. And they have 15, 20,000 hours. And so I would like to know, when they say a junior pilot, he might be junior because his seniority number in the rank of things of when he joined. But in terms of their qualification and experience, we don't have junior pilots. Our pilots join this airline after a very rigorous intake. The minimum intake requirement is at 2,000 hours in total time. Even then, you don't just go straight to starting to fly. You become what we call a relief pilot until such time that we are happy with the standards and that you're familiar with our operations. And by the time you start actually sitting on the right-hand seat of the aircraft and flying, you've not only got your own hours that you've built up, but you've actually had a number of years of observing how the operations work.
So, Captain, can you assure us and all South Africans, whoever else is flying SAA regionally, that those flights that are back up in the air, the SAA regional flights are safe to fly and there's no need for worry or concern?
I will pay anybody 1,000 rands if they can bring me a co-pilot who's got less than 3,000 hours that's out there.
Great. Thank you so much, Captain. So there you have it, Sally, some more reassurance that these flights are indeed safe. There is no junior pilot that is flying those regional flights that SAA announced are back in the air. So I think, hearing it from a captain himself, I think that's some kind of reassurance, and probably the most reassurance that we need at this point.
And very quickly, Erin, have you had any update on where negotiations are at? Are there any talks ongoing today at all?
So when we spoke to NUMSA a little earlier on today, we had a discussion around where wage negotiations are at the moment, and then basically saying that they brought in the CCMA on Saturday to mediate between the airline and the unions, and they came almost to a deadlock because the unions are insisting on 8%, whereas the airline is saying they can only give about 5.9 if they get any kind of money from lenders, and the unions basically saying that they've tried to reach out to the Minister of Public Enterprises, Minister Pravin Gordhan, to see if he will be interested in any kind of discussion, which according to NUMSA, he's indicated that he's keen on having a discussion, and we'll just get word on whether or not they'll come to some kind of agreement. So for now, there's still a deadlock, no word on what's going on. Members are still striking outside SAA Technical and headquarters of SAA.